I would not be doing my duty here and doing something that is an absolute pleasure if I did not acknowledge something that I don't know that it will get a lot of discussion today but it should if we had all the time in the world, which we don't, I would point out. But that is the proposal that's before you to redevelop some of the land underneath the Gardiner Expressway. And the extraordinary part of this, I think, is twofold. Number one, I think it will create an extraordinary public space that will become known in this city as something that's known around the world as a tourism attraction, as a great use of, unusual use of public space that might have been, as it has been, kind of just written off in perpetuity. But I think the second reason it will become better known, and it already is in the city, I can already tell you it has led to phone calls to my office from others who want to follow the example of Judy and Will Matthews. Because to me, it says a lot about Toronto, and it says a lot about them in particular, for them to come forward and say they will donate $25 million of their money to make this happen. And, you know, it might have happened some other way, it might have happened some other time, but now, subject to your approval, it's going to happen soon, meaning in the next year and a half to 2 years, because they have made that happen through their generosity. And I just want to say to them, they're not here at the moment, but we'll bring them here at an appropriate time. Thank you for that. And I want to say that I'm most grateful as well that Waterfront Toronto is going to be involved in this. That was at my original suggestion. I sent them over to meet Waterfront Toronto, which they hadn't done, and they're now functioning in the kind of partnership that we would all expect with the city, with Waterfront Toronto, and with the Matthews and the people who are advising them.
Tory, question?
Well, I just wanted to follow up, if I could, and ask the councillor a question, just going to follow along, I think, with what Councillor Campbell was saying, which is that I trust you'd agree with me that we should be very careful. I mean, I don't think, frankly, the Waterfront Corporation would have any trouble doing this in any event, and I know these two people very well, and I don't think they'll have any trouble with the notion they're people with a huge social conscience. But I trust you would agree with me that we should be very careful when somebody does come to the city to donate $25 million, no strings attached, to do something that everybody in this building is enthused about, as far as I could tell, and that we should be careful about looking like we're trying to, in any way, as much as this is a laudable purpose, put any thumbtacks in the way of getting this done. And we're supposed to get it done by 2017. I trust you'd agree with that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do agree with that, and I don't believe at any time when we try to tie in the city's workforce development objectives do we slow down a public works project.
Well, you would agree with me, though, it's possible you wouldn't. It's not a matter of timing. It's a matter of making sure what you don't do is slow down. You don't want to make it disappear, I don't think, do you, in the sense that they just say, look, I can assure you there are people with a huge social conscience, but I can assure you, and I trust you trust me in telling you that they also don't want this to get in any way sort of just bogged down with a lot of stuff. They just want to see it get done, as we all do, and the other objective you're looking at here, you know, is excellent, but I trust you understand. That's my question.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
They also just don't want to see it get bogged down in a lot of things, that laudable as they may be.
Mr. Mayor, I do understand the question, and I think that under the current terms of the arrangement with the Matthews family is that the first $3 million will be advanced to deal with the due diligence and the design work, and I would imagine that any further funds would be withheld if they're not satisfied with the process. And I did speak to Mrs. Matthews myself, and she did impress upon me that her priority, her number one priority, is making sure that the work was done quickly.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Tory to speak.
Well, Madam Speaker, I thank you. I just wanted to get up and say, and we tried to see if the Matthews could be here today and work out the schedule as to when this would be dealt with, but given the vagaries of our scheduling and timing, that didn't work out. But I just wanted to take the occasion because while I had the occasion at a press conference that we had with them, and which Councillor Cressy was present at, and I think Councillor Layton was there as well, just to say what a magnificent act of citizenship this was by this family, by this couple. And to tell you something that I told them yesterday. They were in to visit yesterday about something to do with this. And if I seem unduly, what's the word I'm looking for, focused on making sure we don't do anything that appears to be putting any roadblocks in the way of their project, is because I am, and that's not to say that people who donate get to sort of have everything to say about what happens, but I certainly want to make sure that the one thing they said from the first time they came in to see me about this was that they did not want this to get bogged down and to be one of those projects that 7 years from now we're sitting here debating some aspect of it. And I think that there's been enough good work done, and there will be lots of other work done by our staff working with that team, that there's little danger of that. And so if I was asking questions earlier on, it was only in that regard. And what I wanted to tell you that I think is good news above and beyond the gift itself and the idea itself, and I was able to share this with them yesterday, was that the announcement prompted 3 calls that I've had now from other citizens in Toronto, one of whom called with a very specific idea of something he wanted to do, and the other 2 just called to say, I'd like to do something like that. And you know, I'm very hopeful. I've done a lot of fundraising for charity in my days prior to becoming the mayor, that it won't be done at the expense of universities and hospitals and whatnot. It'll be done in addition to, because I just don't think until this came along people thought about the fact they could do something quite important in the public realm that doesn't fit within the category of a university or a hospital or one of those more customary kinds of charities. And I think nothing I could have told them yesterday would have made them happier, short of the fact we're having the ribbon cutting tomorrow afternoon. Nothing would have made them happier than to hear that the example they hope to set was in fact having an impact on some other people. And you know, my guess would be of the 3 people who called, one of them or 2 of them might come to pass, but I think that's way ahead of where we were before. And when those are announced, 3 other people will call. And, you know, it isn't confined to people who are wealthy. These people happen to be people of means that could write a check, maybe not quite as big as the Matthews, but I'm hopeful, as we said at the press conference, all of us, Councillor Cressy, myself, Councillor Layton, and everybody involved, that this will lead to citizens deciding in their own neighbourhoods that there are things they can do on a collective basis to address things that exist in the public realm that we either might never get to or might not get to soon, or, you know, all of those various reasons I think we all understand in this room. But the main purpose of my standing up was to say I think this is going to be, as I mentioned this morning, an exciting project of global note. I think it'll be of global note because it'll be done with that quality. I think that, and I think that it will serve as a powerful example of city building by people themselves taking the initiative. And I want to say thank you finally to the councillors involved directly. I want to say thank you to the staff. When Mr. and Mrs. Matthews came in, we got John Livy, and I want to mention his name in particular because I knew he was a guy that if we got him into the room and said, John, we have to try and make this happen, he would make it happen. And indeed, he did. And he worked with Mr. Greenberg and all of the others involved, and they have a whole team working on this already, as you might expect. That's the Matthews do. And the Matthews are extremely happy. I also suggested to Mrs. Matthews, Judy Matthews, when she called to say who can kind of manage this, that I thought the right person was Waterfront Toronto, and she had to be introduced to John Campbell, went over there and became away convinced that they were the right people, which they are. So I think so far this whole thing is a very positive story, and I just want to make sure we keep it that way. And last but not least, to say again, as I will try to say 1,000 times if I have the chance, to the Matthews family, thank you for this magnificent gesture of city building, this magnificent act of generosity, which I think is going to be a great thing for the city, and I hope everybody will support it. Thank you.